Yo, what's up? I'm the modern philosopher, and this is my boy Alex, my guest speaker today. Um, Today we're going to be talking about religion versus science, empiricism versus rationalism in education. Alex had some really cool ideas about what religion is, and so I wanted him to come in and talk about what he thought about religion and all that stuff was. So to start off, we have some pretty cool quotes about religion and science. One from Carl Sagan is, "Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality." So one of the biggest arguments about science and religion is that science is a faith, but I beg to make the argument that science is no different than religion. Um, and so Alex, we were talking the other day, and we had some really cool ideas about how religion actually changes between Oriental religion versus more Western views on religion, and how that can even affect the different ideas about religion and science and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, so going off of that, just sort of my take on religion is that I've never been religious my entire life. Like, since I was a little kid, no one ever kind of gave me the idea of God or uh, tried to convince me of that idea. And so I never thought that, there was a higher thing that I had to bind myself to act accordingly to it. And so going off of what Josh was saying is my view on religion is that it's okay to have a spirituality and to have a faith as long as you don't try to push it on people, and as long as it doesn't lead you to behavior that is hurtful to the human race. And we see that all over the world now. And the problem, I think, is like Josh was saying, with Eastern religions or spiritual mindsets, is that they claim that us as humans are part of the world, that we are fundamentally within the same cycle, we all move towards the same goal, we all have the same kind of connection to everything. But Western religions like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, they claim that we are the center of everything. And that is the fundamental distinction, I think, that really allows us to destroy and to make ourselves the most important thing, to put us above everything else, when in reality, if we destroy our earth, we have nothing left. And we don't really think about that when I don't know. What do you have to say, Josh?
No, I think that's completely true. We were talking about it the other day, and I think that is completely true about how Eastern philosophies have a completely different view about it, and I think that's one of the most crucial flaws in religion, is how you perceive the world. And how I personally see religion is just a different philosophy. That's how I see science, in the same way. They're both just different philosophies on life, because philosophy is just the study of life and the love of life. That's its actual Latin translation. And so when you actually the importance of it, when you think of science, they think of religion in a different way. So another crazy topic that we were talking about the other day was how science basically comes up with a new idea that proves religion wrong, and then later on religion basically says, oh, yeah,
Yeah. So, I've kind of heard Christopher Hitchens talk about something like this, and basically the story with religion throughout all of human society has been, religion comes up with its book, and it says, this is how you live life, and this is how the world works, and that's it. And then people go against that, and they start to think for themselves, they start to discover, and then they say, oh, I just discovered the earth is not flat, I just discovered that the earth goes around the sun, anything like that. And religion says, no, that's not true. And then more and more evidence stacks up for the scientific, and eventually religion caves, and they say, oh, we knew that all along, God is just greater than we expected. And it's a cop-out, and it has been happening all throughout all of human society and all of our civilization's history. And for some people, they argue that God is everything that science can't kind of explain, like the God of the gaps kind of thing. And what that is just God is now becoming just a list of things that is getting crossed off that we can explain through science. And eventually God is just going to become a nothing if you continue to think of God that way, because science is going to prove or is going to figure out how everything works eventually. We just need enough time. And it's just, religion has always fought against that progress, and that's really detrimental to us as a species.
I really like what you're saying about how religion always fights against it, because I really think science and religion are constantly at struggle. They're constantly in struggle, like yin and yang, just like Confucianism and Taoism. And religion is really based on a certain faith-based idea, and science is more based on the logical. And when you take into perspective rationalism versus empiricism, they're complete opposites. Science thinks in a very rational way. Religion thinks in a very empirical way. However, they draw from evidence from the opposite, if that makes sense. So science, you take the sensations and you take information from the world around you. You observe, you look at a certain phenomenon, you listen, you hear, you take those observations and you make a logical assumption rationally about it. Whereas religion, you come up with a empirical idea, like, oh, God is there, and then you implant that into the empirical world with into the empirical world with the sensations and whatnot. And so I think that it's really interesting how the two different ways of thinking collide, and how they really contradict each other in a lot of ways, and how they struggle. And like Alex was saying, exactly, the struggle between the two, like, one is going to win out. And right now, science is just constantly coming out with new ideas that religion just cannot answer to. And so religion just cops out, and they just say, oh, we knew that all along, or whatnot, something similar to that. And so that struggle is actually really interesting. And so there's a quote by Richard Feynman, a great scientist, and it's, religion is a culture of faith, and science is a culture of doubt. And so all you're doing in science is trying to prove something wrong, and all you're doing in religion is try and prove something right. So it's just like this contrast between the two different philosophies, and I think that contrast is really what gives religion and science the great importance that we have in modern society. So
yeah. So going back to sort of that first Carl Sagan quote, talking about kind of the clash between these two things, is that science is a beautiful thing if you really start to look at it. If you start to really get into the details and you start to find out all the cool ways that our universe actually works. And so science and religion don't necessarily have to be in conflict. The only thing that science is in conflict with in any faith really is like the origin story and the way that religion claims to know how everything works. Like, you can believe in a God, but why do you have to believe that the earth is 6,000 years old? Why do you have to believe that there was a talking snake once who convinced us humans to learn, basically? And what one really interesting thing is, the way that matter in this universe is formed, or the elements that we're comprised of is formed, is by the furnaces of stars being compounded over millions of years, and then eventually those stars run out of energy and they explode. So, and then those elements are scattered throughout the universe, and they make up the worlds that we live on, and they make up us. How beautiful is it to think that we are all made from stardust? Like, that is a beautiful thought, and it comes from a scientific belief, I guess you could say, but it comes from a scientific approach on the world, and that is amazingly spiritual, that is amazingly profound and deep, and it can bring meaning to your life without having to kind of box yourself into a belief system that really has no proof for it in the world that we see today. And that Richard Feynman quote is really good too, because religion claims to know everything, and science does not claim to know everything. Science only claims to know what we have learned so far, and that's as much as you can know. You're only intelligent once you realize how much you don't know.
Yeah, I beg to differ. I think science tries to say we know nothing, and we're trying to prove ourselves wrong.
Yeah.
Right, and science is we're trying to prove ourselves right, and I think that's really interesting. And we're all made of stardust. That's even a Carl Sagan quote, and I think that in itself it points out how science is a spiritual feeling, because it's emotional. Like if you think everything is made out of the same thing, like what Stephen Hawking thinks about the idea of a singularity, that everything is made out of a single thing, like that, it's a spiritual idea. And I think the religion versus science, I think people can make their own decision about what they want to believe in, and I think that there's merit in believing in a God, and I think there's merit in believing in science, but I don't think there's merit in trying to make the other negative, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think there's merit in trying to say, oh, science is wrong, religion is the only way, God is the true path. Like that's where you fall off the path. If you can believe in God, that's beautiful. Believing in God and having faith is a beautiful thing. Having faith in science is a beautiful thing. And once you start to say, no, science is stupid, no, like I don't, that they're just wrong, they're just flat out wrong, that's when you start to get these bad influences on and bad ideas about religion and science, and that's, I think, one of the biggest cruxes about the situation and the struggle today. You have to be at balance between the two, like yin and yang. You have to be in balance between the good and the bad. You can't just flat out say, yo, no, you're wrong. You have to at least be open to the idea that they have their own viewpoint, they have their own perspective, and that's all that science and religion is.
Yeah, you have to be able to adapt, really, and religion tries to do that, and sometimes it's for the better, and sometimes they fail to do that, and you see people who are so at odds with science, or philosophies that combat their religion, that they try to kill people, or they do kill people. It's just something for what they think, and that is a poison. Religion makes it very easy to do that if you take it to its most extreme. And I mean, we see that throughout all of human history. And like, you can believe in a God, you can believe that there might be something past this life, because in reality, science has said nothing to discredit that. Who knows? There could very well be a prime mover in the universe who created all of this and is more powerful than we could ever imagine. But the idea that we somehow know what that entity wants for us, that we somehow think that it cares about who we have sex with, what we eat, what we wear, things like that, is so superficial, it's so low, that a deity of that power would not stoop to that level. And when you start to like get down to it, really, it becomes more and more obvious that it's not God who has set these rules in these holy books. It's people who wrote them, who didn't agree with what other people were doing. And when you look at it that way, that makes perfect sense that God would care who we have sex with, because it wasn't him; it was the person who wrote about what they thought that it wanted.
Yeah, exactly. That's honestly a really good point about how a lot of people look at the Bible and they believe in the Bible, but the Bible was written by humans. The Bible has absolutely no connection to God. God didn't write the Bible. Jesus didn't write the Bible. The Bible was written by humans. And so it pollutes a lot of people's perspective about God, because a lot of people see it as the Word of God. And in some cases it can be, but it was written by people. That's what you have to remember.
It's strange, because people try to say that the Bible is the Word of God and it's the way, But the Bible doesn't even claim to be the Word of God. It claims to be the writings, I guess, the people who followed Jesus and what they wrote about him and what he said. And it's not handwritten by God like the Quran claims to be. It was not handwritten by God, but it was dictated through Muhammad, and he wrote everything down word for word, apparently. And so, I don't know. It's strange that people, they don't even know their own religion in a sense. They kind of try to make things up about it to give themselves more credit.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's just an interesting topic.
Yeah.
So that's what we basically had to talk about today. So far, this week we've been talking about knowledge and education, and today our discussion is kind of straight away from knowledge and education, but it's actually really crucial to what knowledge and education is about. And because knowledge and education is about improving your perspective on life and having a different perspective on life through adapting to the world around you, because that's what we talked about yesterday, how to change your perspective on life, because that's how you evolve through Darwinism. And so religion and science are just different perspectives that you can see life through, and that's why it pertains to education, because you can be educated through religion, you could be educated through science, and both lead to knowledge, but they lead to different perspectives of it. So that's what we had to talk about today. I'm the modern philosopher. This is my good friend
Alex.
Or the young Alexander.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to his SoundCloud in the description below. He makes some pretty sick music. So that's it for today. This is today's Daily Enlightenment. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and make sure to give me a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this.